Hello again, everybody. Well, today I thought I would show you why I believe the Earth is hollow, and I'm going to give a few examples that might help you to think about that concept. All right, very simple examples really. As you see, well, first of all, I'll go to my main picture here. Behind me on the wall, you're probably wondering what that is already. These are allegedly photographs taken by NASA. This one in 1967. This is a close angle picture. This is not the whole world like the other two pictures. This is just above the Arctic Circle, and that's why you can see that gaping big hole. Now, 2 years ago, NASA took these pictures of the whole world where you can clearly see this hole in the Arctic Circle. Now, these pictures were only there for 5 minutes and then they were obliterated from the internet. And of course you might say, well, why would the authorities hide information from us? Well, that's a common question. But what I say to you is, why not? In some ways I don't blame them for hiding the information. In another sense of values, I think it's good that people ought to know what the planet is really like. Is it solid? Is it hollow? Is it flat? What is it? But these pictures prove concisely that there's something else going on here. There's some sort of massive entrance here inside the Earth. And because of that, if it is true that the Earth is hollow, why is it important whether it's solid or hollow? I'll tell you why it's important. Because right now there's a lot of things don't add up. For example, many people know this, for example, the migration of birds after the winter. Well, where do birds go? Why is it that many birds migrate northwards and not southwards? In the winter, towards the winter, they migrate north, when you'd think they'd go south to a much warmer climate, but they don't. They go north. And that's observed by all the explorers like Amundsen, Nansen, all these people explored, Scott. They said they saw a lot of strange things in going to the poles. One of them was that, the migration of birds going in the opposite direction of what you expect. Another thing is that near the poles, you're seeing many different coloured snows. Not just white snow, but red, blue, green, yellow, grey, black. I mention these things in my books. These are my books here that I have mentioned to people before. My first one was Out the Bottom of the Spirit, about the paranormal. That talks quite a bit about the whole Earth. My second book came out this year, Enoch Insights. This also talks about the Earth being hollow, to some degree. And my third book, S.N.Strutt Insights, this also mentions the Earth is hollow as well. The last two books are scriptural books, or they're the apocryphal books. That's what they are, apocryphal books, yeah. Okay, so this is the concept. There are millions of people who believe that the Earth is hollow, one way or the other. It's becoming a popular thing. Now, I believe the Earth is hollow, although I am a saved Christian, I'm a born-again Christian, but I also believe the Earth is hollow. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's a thing of observation, just for pure physics. And I'll give you a few examples that you can do for yourself. For example, we have this globe here that those who made it, they deliberately made it hollow for many reasons. I can think of many reasons. You look at this, look, with very little force, it spins. But I put to you, if I was to fill that with water or concrete, it would take a massive force to even move it. And therefore I say to you that with the Earth, if the Earth is hollow, the fact is, if you do physics, and you physics students can try this in their physics lab, try putting a hollow sphere that's got at least some weight to it inside a vacuum. Take the air out and make a vacuum, but set it off spinning. And then try doing that with both solid and a hollow object. You'll find that in a vacuum, the hollow sphere will spin indefinitely, as long as it's got a minimum amount of mass. Alright, so that's that bit. The thing is, here too, here's something you can observe very clearly. We're told the Earth is solid. But when they say it's solid, they don't really mean it's solid. Because it's full of It's full of volcanoes, it's full of liquids and solids and masses, and they're moving around in different directions. The net effect of something like that is the difference between a hard-boiled egg and a soft-boiled egg. If you have a hard-boiled egg, and that's like as if it was completely solid all the way through the earth, then it was, sorry about that, that's on my paper, it spins pretty good actually. That's a hard-boiled egg. But, there's a good example. Hard-boiled egg, it spins great. So, if the earth was completely solid uniformly all the way through the earth, then it would spin. Of course, an egg's not uniformly round, is it? So, it has its resistance to movement too. But even worse is with this egg. And this to me is a great proof about hollow earth or solid earth. The simple uncooked egg. Why? Because the simple uncooked egg, it's not solid all the way through. It has a lot of liquid, and the problem with having liquid is it moves against itself. The forces are not all in the same direction like they would be in a solid egg. All the forces internally are moving against each other. And so look what happens when I try to spin it. It simply won't spin. And that would be the same effect if the earth was solid the way we're told. Because you have so many fluids, liquids, some heavy masses, some metallic masses, some with deeper gravitation, some with less, working against each other. So even if you did spin the earth, and which would take a lot of force, considering the mass there would be if it was solid, then it would very soon slow down. It could not maintain its spin. But I put to you that whoever created the universe, I believe it's God, he created things to be practical and economical. And for that reason, again, here's another illustration. I've got this pole here, which if solid, it has its limitations. It would be very heavy for one thing, right? But if you then draw it out and make it hollow like this one is, let me see, hollow. Again, it's useful because you can put something inside it. And if you examine all creation out there, all the plants, the trees, everything's hollow to some degree. Otherwise, you couldn't get the nutrition flowing around the plant and the trees. Everything in nature is largely hollow, and it's because it's practical and enables you to put something inside it. I mean, look in manufacturing. When you create a car, what do? You create first the shell of the car. It's hollow, and then that gives space so you can put many things inside it. So it's practical. So I put to you that everything in creation is largely hollow, and you'll find that too with asteroids and comets. They're also hollow. They're hollow, fire and ice, and in the center of them they have a little sun, if you want to call it, or a ball of fire, and that guides them round the solar system. And there are many of us who believe it's the same with the earth. We believe the earth is hollow, and inside it there is a small sun about 600 miles in diameter, and that's what gives it its force and its momentum. I think that the reason why our poor Metro office and meteorological office, the BBC, they're famous for getting the weather wrong. The reason is simple. If you believe that the earth is solid and you don't know about these holes in the poles, what about the weather on the inside of the earth? What about the sea currents inside the earth? What about the constant flow inside and outside? It affects the weather. But if you don't take that into consideration, they can't even predict things more than a few days by their own admission. All right, so that's just one of the many mysteries of the earth being hollow. Well, like I said, that's what I propose. I think it is. I believe it. I can't prove it. I haven't been there. But I think it's more logical. Like I studied physics at university myself. I studied a lot of science. I like science very much. But I honestly think people are being hoodwinked into believing this is just one concept. One concept is that the earth is hollow. There are thousands of other ones where people are being hoodwinked, are being lied to deliberately, because the powers that be don't want you to know the truth. I don't blame them in some ways, because they don't want gold diggers going down the side of the earth to find out if there's riches and stuff down there. But I think it's a fascinating topic, and there's a lot more for you to investigate personally to see if these things are true. Right, and on that subject, I suggest to people to read my books, because these books, these point out that it is written in scriptures that the earth is hollow. Do you know, it wasn't Columbus that discovered the earth is round. It says it clearly back in the book of Job, almost 4,000 years ago. And in the Apocryphal books, there are amazing amount of information. I listed here, I won't read it now because it takes too long, but there are pages and pages and pages here of references to the earth being hollow. And I put it to you, why would God tell his prophets that the earth is hollow, giving many illustrations, time and time again, unless it is? So, there's a lot of evidence to prove that the earth is hollow, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to do your own research to see if these things be. Nice talking with you.